I would like to call the City Council meeting of February the 17th, 2015 to order. Sandra, would you please call the roll?
Latour.
Present.
Long.
Here.
Gray.
Here.
Marsh.
Here.
Kenyon.
Here.
Petty. Tennant.
Here.
Shopmire. Mayor Jordan.
Here. Would you join me in Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, the first order of business we have tonight is the consent agenda. Number one, approval of the February 3rd, 2015 City Council meeting minutes. Number two, a resolution to approve a budget adjustment in a total amount of $23,098 representing donations to Rangers Pantry and CDBG program income received from two housing program lien payoffs. Number three, a resolution to award bid number 15-17 and authorize the purchase of an LED trail light fixtures from Amerilux Exterior LLC in the amount of $1,450 per light fixture plus applicable taxes and variable amounts as needed through the end of calendar year 2015. Number four, a resolution to award bid number 15-17 and to authorize the purchase of fiberglass trail light poles from Alliance Composites Incorporated in the amount of $450 per light pole plus applicable taxes and variable amounts as needed through the end of calendar year 2015. Number five, a resolution authorizing a contract with King Electric Contractors in the amount of $34,920 pursuant to bid number 10-47 for the installation of LED trail light fixtures and light poles along the Town Branch Trail and to approve a 10% project contingency. Number six, a resolution authorizing a professional engineering services agreement with Garver LLC for final design services for water and sewer relocations associated with Arkansas Highway and Transportation Department project BB 0414 Interstate 49 and Highway 112 interchange in an amount not to exceed $102,742.50 and to approve a budget adjustment. Number seven, a resolution to approve task order number 2 with the Watershed Conservation Resource Center for continued maintenance of previously completed stream restoration projects at Neocosca Creek and the White River through 2015 in the amount of $62,500 and to approve a budget adjustment. Number 8, a resolution to award bid number 15-16 and to authorize a contract with CAM Lawn Services LLC in the amount of $149,191 to plant trees and shrubs in the medium of crossover road between Township Avenue and Joyce Boulevard and in the medium of Garland Avenue between Mount Comfort Road and Janice Avenue and to approve a project contingency in the amount of $15,000. I will entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda as read.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to accept the consent agenda as read. Sandra, would you please call the roll?
Latour.
Yes.
Long.
Here. Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Marsh.
Yes.
Kenyon.
Yes.
Petty.
Yes.
Tennant.
Yes.
Okay. Second thing we're going to do tonight is open up a public hearing. Public hearing, repeal and replace Title 5, Public Works, and amend Chapter 51 and Chapter 10. I will now open the public hearing. Anybody?
Just to notify the public, obviously, we've read their ordinance in the past, and if anybody has any questions, we have the Water and Sewer Director here.
Okay. Any comments from the public on this? Okay. We'll bring it back, close the public hearing. And I guess the next order of business is repeal and replace Title 5, Public Works, and amend Chapter 51, Chapter 10.
You want to move, suspend the rules, go to third and final reading?
Yes.
Okay. Suspend the rules and go to third and final reading.
Was there a second to the motion?
Second.
Sandra, would you please call the roll?
Latour.
Yes.
Long.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Marsh.
Yes.
Kenyon.
Yes.
Petty.
Yes.
Tennant.
Yes.
An ordinance to repeal and replace Title 5, Public Works, Article 3, Discharge and Pretreatment Regulations, to amend Section 51.137 monthly sewer rates, to amend Section 51.138 definitions pertaining to water and sewer rates, to amend Section 51.999 penalty, and to amend Section 10.99 general penalty of the Fayetteville Code.
What final comments do we have in the council on this before we vote? Yes, John?
Mayor, do we have any idea what will happen to sewer rates under this proposal? Will they go up or down?
Tim, come on up, please answer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As far as the rate studies goes, that will be dependent on a rate study by a consulting firm in the city of Fayetteville. The rate adjustments in the pretreatment ordinance is merely for septic haulers that actually bring loads to the treatment plant and discharge directly into the treatment plant.
So we're going to have a rate study in the future that'll be brought back to the city council in case the rates need to change. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
What did you say about this only applies to people bringing loads for treatment? Would this not apply to each consumer, homeowner in Fayetteville?
Those rates are put in with the rate study.
Were you employed by our city the last 2 or 3 times we did a rate study on sewage rates?
No, sir.
You were not?
No, sir.
Okay. It'd be interesting to see each time we did a rate study, did the rates go up or down?
We can certainly get you that information, sir.
I'd be very interested in that information. Thank you, Tim.
Mark?
Just for clarification, this is the language to take our current code and put it in compliance with the suggestion of the ADQ and the EPA. So this specific revision of the code that we're talking about tonight doesn't have a direct impact on rates.
Okay.
And we've talked about this in water sewer.
Yes, sir.
And basically, we're bringing some terminology up to make it in line with current usage, because it was out of line with current usage. There's new terms. So, and then it puts it into segments as suggested by the ADEQ and the EPA, moving it from one section to the other section. So it's not this. The code that we're talking about tonight does not have an impact on rates.
It was only under abundance of caution that we went ahead and publicized this as if it did affect the rates, but the effect on rates of this particular ordinance should be very minimal, if any.
Okay. All right. Any other questions, comments? Okay. All right, Sandra. I'll ask, is there any public, did I ask for public comment on this yet? Okay. All right. Bring it back to the council. Sandra, would you please call the roll?
Latour,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Gray,
Yes.
Marsh,
Yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Petty,
Yes.
Tennant,
Yes.
Okay, unfinished business, number 1. An ordinance to repeal and replace Title V, Public Works, Article 3, Discharge and Pretreatment Regulations to amend 51.137 monthly sewer rates.
No, this is
I'm
actually what
sorry.
we just did, Mayor. That
I'm
was
sorry. I didn't read the whole thing, did I? All right. Number 2, an ordinance rezoning that property described in rezoning petition RZN 14-4882 for approximately 21.63 acres located on the east side of Rupert Road, north of the Boys and Girls Club from RPZD, Residential Plan Zoning District, RPZD 06, 1884, West Side Village, to NS Neighborhood Services. As left on the first reading, I'll entertain a motion to go to the second reading.
So moved. Second.
A motion is second to go to the second reading. Sandra, would you please call the roll?
Latour,
Yes.
Long,
No.
Gray,
Yes.
Marsh,
Yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Petty,
Yes.
Tennant.
Yes.
an ordinance rezoning that property described in rezoning petition RZN 14-4882 for approximately 21.63 acres located on the east side of Rupert Road, north of the Boys and Girls Club, from RPZD Residential Plan Zoning District, RPZD 06-1884 West Side Village, to NS Neighborhood Services.
I understand that the council members from Ward 4 would like to hold this on the second reading.
Yes, if possible, Mr. Mayor, I've met or spoken with the Property Owners Association directly adjacent to this property, and they're going to be having a meeting, and they've invited me, and I believe they've sent an invitation to Alderman Latour, and I'm going to be discussing this with them just to make sure that everyone's on the same page.
Speak a little bit louder so that people can hear you.
Just to make sure everyone's on the same page with this. So when I have that property owners meeting and come back, I'll
So if we hold it
council
on,
hopefully by the next meeting.
so if we hold it on second reading, it'll give you 2 more weeks,
That'd be fine.
correct? Is everybody good with that? Okay. All right, number 3. An ordinance rezoning that property described in rezoning petition RZN 14-4883 for approximately 93.04 acres located at Highway 112 north of Truckers Drive from RPCDO 5-1796 Residential Plan Zoning District Park West to RSF 8 Residential Single Family 8 units per acre and CS Community Services. That also was left on the first reading. You all will entertain a motion to go to the second reading?
Well, let's suspend the rules and go to the second reading without me having to read the entire thing.
Well,
We're going
that's-
to go to the second reading anyway.
Okay.
So,
Yes, I move we suspend the rules and go to the second reading.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to go to the second reading. Sandra, would you please call the roll?
Latour,
Yes.
Long,
Yes?
Gray,
Yes.
Marsh.
Yes.
Kenyon.
Yes.
Hetty. Tenet.
Yes.
An ordinance rezoning that property described in rezoning petition RZN 14-4883 for approximately 93.04 acres located at Highway 112 north of Truckers Drive from Residential Plan Zoning District Park West to RSF 8 Residential Single Family 8 units per acre and Community Services.
Okay, just the council members from Ward 4, this is Ward 4 project as well. Do you want to hold that for 2 weeks? No? You will. I'm going to get some public comment. If they're not, we're going to go on here. All right, what questions, anything new from the staff on this?
No, sir, just to remind the council, this is a staff-initiated rezoning. The current property has no zoning or development rights because it's within an expired planned zoning district approved back in 2006. We brought this forward to rezone the property, community services, and RSF 8. And you can see in the maps attached to your packet which areas are designated in excuse me, in each of those zones. And so staff, the Planning Commission is recommending approval. Planning Commission recommended 9-0 in favor of this request.
Okay. Okay, any questions from staff on this? Yes, Sarah.
I've gotten a few concerned inquiries regarding the sensitive riparian areas on the site. Can you talk a little bit about what protections those areas would have if this were to go forward?
Sure. So essentially, any zoning district would you would have to look at the same thing. So it's generally at the development proposal that we would look at whether there's a streamside protection area, whether there are designated wetlands. It's my memory that there are actually some already designated core wetlands on this site, which they would have to, any developer would have to monitor and either stay out of or request to mitigate as part of a development plan. So that's really regardless of what zoning district is picked when the property comes under development. But it's something we're well aware of because it's upstream of Claver Creek and the sensitive riparian area to the south.
All right, so just to be clear that our streamside protection ordinance will protect the critical areas on this
If
site.
it applies, we just don't know if it applies currently without a development proposal and seeing what if there's actually a stream bank that drains at least 100 acres. We'd have to look at our maps to understand that.
Okay,
But if
thank
it does apply, then we would apply all of those protections to a development proposal.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? All right, we'll take some public comment. Everybody gets one turn at the microphone. Introduce yourself and your address for the council. Keep your remarks to the chair, which would be me, and who would like to go first? Now, the only time you get to come back is if a council member brings you back up to ask questions, all right? Introduce.
Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Mayor. And I'd like to, my name is Joe Neal, and I live at 145 East Cleburne here in Fayetteville. And I've lived here since the 1960s. And I'd like to start out first by saying that I probably come into this a little bit late with my comments, and I know that the city staff works way ahead on things like this, and if I was more diligent, I would probably know on the front end that there was maybe a better time to make the kind of comments I want to make here. But, so I make an apology, and I don't fault anybody about this. Back in the 1950s, when Doug James first came to the University of Arkansas to teach, there used to be flights of thousands of American golden plovers through the area that includes this parcel of property. And there were many thousands of them. And these particular birds are among many North American birds that use grasslands in part of their lifestyle. And so at one time, Fayetteville was a very effective part of their range in migration. But we all know what's happened to that particular area, that it's been heavily developed by what's out there now, Landers and Sam's Club and lots of things. And American golden plovers are now really unusual birds anywhere in Fayetteville. When we see them, we get all excited. And I should also mention that I really appreciated the map that was on the city's website. The comments that I'm making here concern just part of the track that's being discussed tonight, and it's the part of there are several acres here, 33.38, that are up along Dean Solomon Road and 112, and it's more of an upland site. And my comments are about the 59.66 acres that are sort of across from the 112 drive-in. So just to orient you, that's the place that I'm talking about. That particular property, if you dig anywhere on that property, you dig a shallow trench, you're going to get to water. And people who are interested in wetlands recognize what are called hydric soils. That means that there is specific evidence that the ground is either flooded all the time, which we would all recognize as a wetland, or at least part of the time. So we've referred to this as a seasonal wetland. And a lot of you probably remember more than 10 years ago when we got into a squabble about the property which is part of Wilson Springs, now being managed as Wilson Springs Conservation Area. And the city at that time owned 289 acres in there that was going to be developed as a tech park, and that project fell through. And then the then mayor, Dan Cootie, appointed a committee of civic leaders and his political supporters, environmentalists. It was a pretty broad committee to study what the city should do with that property. And that committee came back not with a unanimous decision, but a near unanimous decision that the lower parts of that property should not be developed because they had wetland soils, and that what the city should do is protect that as a special area for plants and birds and so forth, butterflies and that sort of thing. For his own reasons, Mayor Cootie, who is a friend of mine, decided to ignore that recommendation and to go ahead and sell off a significant part of that property, and so it's now housing's being developed on it, much like I think will occur on this 59.66 acres. It'll be similar, I assume. Okay, my point in bringing this up is that I'm not familiar in this process if anybody's really looked at the seasonal wetlands issues here and what our role is in developing a city in which we really don't take those things into account that we see, except for an obvious creek with an obvious application of the streamside ordinance, that we're not taking into account the fact that we're dealing with wetland soils and wetland plants and wetland birds and all kinds of wetland ecological issues that are important that we consider. And what I've lived here way too long to think that this council, or excuse me, I don't mean to personalize it like that any city council in Fayetteville during my lifetime would tell somebody who wanted to develop those 60 acres, sorry, you can't put your houses on there. Because if it's legal and lawful, you don't have any grounds to stand on, and I understand that. But I do think that as we continue to lose and give up wetlands, that the role that the council can play here is to require that those losses be mitigated, that we take into account what's being lost when you authorize the development of that property, and that we take into account those losses and we try to make up for them somewhere else where it would be less of a burden on the property owners and where the public in general could gain something. So my point is that the people who are going to be the big losers are not even represented here. And I know that it's not your business on a day-to-day activity to go around and worry about fish and plants and birds and all that sort of thing, and I completely respect that. But as a biologist, I've devoted my life to it. And I've spent a lot of time in that area, starting most intensively with the Wilson Springs business. The people that won't be speaking here about this rezoning of this property and allowing it to be completely developed will be like the Arkansas darters that are in Wilson Springs and that need the flows from property like this 59 acres. Graham's crayfish snake. It hadn't been seen in northwest Arkansas in 50 years before it was found in very similar habitats like this out at the new wastewater treatment plant site, and is probably on this property as well. Osage burrowing crayfish, I took one of the developers of that property and walked around that property with him several years ago for some other kind of a project that was planned there that I think fell through. And this is an endemic crayfish. It occurs in 9 counties, and it's all over that property. Crayfish frog, another one that had not been documented in our area, and has now been found out there at Woolsey Wet Prairie. And it's similar habitat, it's close by, they're probably in this property we're talking about. Now, instead of going through all this, I know you didn't come here for a biology lesson, and hey, I don't blame you a bit for that because you got other stuff to do. But let me just read a short list. Smallmouth salamander, American golden plover, American bittern, least bittern, sora, brewer sparrow, Henslow sparrow, cason sparrow, Bell's vireo, and plants like Indian grass and big bluestem. These are all creatures that we share this area with, and they're at risk with these kinds of developments. And my friend Aubrey Shepherd here, who may try to get up and razzle you for a few minutes, you know, talked me into coming down here tonight because I've given up on the thought that I'm not going to lay down in front of the bulldozers and I'm not going to have a hissy fit in front of the council about the development of this property. But you could require some mitigation. And I don't have a good recommendation for that because I'm not an expert and I'm not a lawyer. And I don't know how exactly that would work. But before you permit more of this kind of habitat to be developed in that area, you could require that those losses be mitigated so that within the city of Fayetteville we would still have a lot of these creatures. But it's not going to happen if we just keep turning our backs on all of these other creatures that live here with us. And I think I'm done unless you want to ask me something.
What questions do we have? Any? All right, thank you.
Well, thank you for giving me the chance.
All right. Come on up, Aubrey.
Very hard to follow Joe Neal because he's still got a memory. He can name the species and things that I can't always think of. But and what he said about mitigation is important. But one thing I'd like to encourage is that the city council engage in some change to ordinances that would require the planning department and engineering departments to go back to having a core of engineers delineation of seasonal wetland. And that's sort of gone by the wayside for several years. And I'm afraid that partly there have been federal changes. They changed the rules, then they reinstated them. They're probably going to be weakened again. But fact is that everything Joe's saying about it is important, and we can't replace that land. You know, we can't mitigate it in a full sense, and we won't have it, you know, in the city. And I would ask that there be some way that we not, you know, if you rezone it all to 8 houses per acre, there won't be any of those things on any of that land if it's required to go that way. If the best parts were protected, the ditches and actual still functioning streams, and take into account where the underground water is and where it's coming from and where it's going from there before somebody develops it. And people can have a house that's adjacent to some beautiful grassland. They can have a house with a source of water that they could still pump out of the ground if they chose to, and knowing there's a well there that's safe from pollution. But this is the Illinois River watershed, and it is something that our city's been sued over in the past, things that have polluted it, our city, our county, our state. And I hope that we'll get to care as much about it as we do Beaver Lake watershed, because we drink it. Thank you.
Thank you, Aubrey. Anyone else? I'm going to bring it back to the council. Yes, Sarah.
Has this been through the Environmental Action Committee, now that Alan's the chair?
It was not on the last agenda. It can be added to the next one.
I would like to see that done, and maybe if there's no rush on this, was this a staff-initiated rezoning? And, maybe it's something we could even go so far as to split off the 33.38 acre parcel and go ahead and rezone that, and then refer the balance of that in the critical areas to the Environmental Action Committee to just have them take a look at it.
Review it. Alan, that's your committee. Would you?
It will be next month before it meets again.
If there's no rush on the rezoning of the property, that doesn't look, this was a staff-initiated rezoning. There's not a current development proposal. Now would be a good time to do it. And I would support going ahead and moving forward with the 33.38 acres to RSF 8. We could just split that off. That's not in the critical area. And then take a better, closer look to this, the other parcel on, I guess that's 112, that has the sensitive area running through it.
Okay. Yes, Jimmy.
Jeremy, do we know if the current landowner has an opinion? Would he support the study? Would he support development? Would he support leaving it as it is? She?
I don't know. It's owned by a bank currently, so I'm not sure. We've notified them of what staff has presented. Rezonings don't go to Environmental Concerns Committee. It's just unless the council sends it there. It's not part of our normal process, but certainly we'll take any advice or thoughts that they have into consideration. So there's no imminent plans that we're aware of to sell the balance of this property or to develop it at this time.
Do you think the bank would support some move by the city council that may devalue their property or make it non-development property?
I don't think staff would support that. I can't, again, speak for the property owner. The request that we have before you is essentially to allow for the property to have some sort of marketability or developability within the city, whereas currently it has no development or zoning rights. And so what we have presented is simply a staff recommendation on the zoning, not necessarily the development. Development would have to be reviewed under all of our current ordinances, and Chris Brown, our city engineer, is here to he could discuss any wetland requirements. I'm not aware of any wetland changes that we've had in the last 5 to 10 years to not require certain standards to be met for Army Corps of Engineer mitigation, or particularly where there's delineated wetlands in place. In fact, the city has undergone a very extensive review of that very thing on Clapper Creek Trail for months and months, trying to place a boardwalk within a wetland area and having to do the same process. So we meet the same requirements as the developer would.
Thank you.
Okay. So,
So Mayor, is it possible to break this off as Alderman Marsh has suggested? Can we, or maybe is that a question for the attorney?
Well, I just, this was proposed by staff, and so staff, I think, would have the right, if they wanted to divide it into two separate, they've actually recommended two different zonings anyway. My only advice is that we need to zone it something in the near future. Now, there's not been any push by the bank, but I am uneased at the fact that we have land in the city where we have just not, at this point, since the PZD has expired, don't allow any kind of development on. I don't like to see that. We need to have some zoning on it in the near future that will allow at least some kind of development to go on at whatever zoning you believe is the most appropriate.
And from our perspective, it would be fine to split it off, or it would be fine to leave it all and go through at the same time. It really doesn't matter to us.
It seems there hasn't really been any objection to the 33.38 acres going to RSF 8. Seems like let's go ahead and get that done. And then, you know, we have the Environmental Action Committee, who's, one of their objectives is to review land use decisions in environmentally sensitive areas, and it seems prudent to allow them the opportunity to review this issue. And at least advise the council so that we can move forward with that information.
what's the council members think from the ward? That's y'all's ward over in there.
I haven't heard anything from several people who live in the area, and I didn't want it to move to the second reading at the last meeting because I usually do hear from those people in this area. So as far as constituent input, no, I haven't had any objections. But I'm happy to take it to the Environmental Action Committee at next month's meeting, but again, if that poses a problem with the delay, maybe we
Well,
could have a
staff
special-
initiated,
Sure.
so I don't
Doesn't
think,
sound like there's a delay.
I don't think it really makes, John, what do you think?
I haven't heard from any of the constituents, but if I were a stockholder in that bank, I'd feel very imposed upon to have the city council come in and say, oh, this is wetland, you can't do anything with it. I mean, that takes away economic value. My basic conservative viewpoint is if the city wants to keep that as wetland, let them buy it from the bank and do with it as you please. But I think it'd be wrong for us to impose those standards on a private landowner, such as the bank. But I haven't heard from any of my constituents.
Okay.
Well, I would like to make a motion that we go ahead and split off the 33.3 acres and move forward with that rezoning.
Second.
With an RSF8.
Yes.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
And if I can, I just want to clarify, I'm not, for Alderman Latour, what we're talking about isn't restricting the bank's rights, it's allowing them to do something. Because right now, they can't build anything on it. So this discussion will actually put value in their property. So I think I think we're all on the same page on that. Just wanted to clarify.
So what we have before us right now is the 33.8 acres going to RSF
Yes.
8.
Yes.
Okay. Any other comments on that? All right, any public comment on that section? Okay, going to bring it back to the council. We have a motion and a second to take the 33.8 acres of the, whatever it is.
Is that an amendment to what we've
It
already?
would have to be amendment to the ordinance.
Yeah.
So I don't see all that, but you have that, you drafted this ordinance, Jeremy, so that's okay with you, you can handle that?
Correct. So the ordinance would be amended to remove the reference to the 59.66 acres of community services. Exhibit A would also be amended to remove that, and Exhibit B, which is a legal description, they're already separated, so we'd simply remove the community services one.
Right, and then we'll just hold that for pending review by the Environmental Action Committee.
All right, everybody good? All right. Sandra, would you please call the roll?
Latour,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Gray,
Yes.
Marsh.
Yes.
Kenyon.
Yes.
Petty.
Yes.
Tenet.
Yes.
Okay, and now the 59 acres we will hold until the Environmental Action Committee can review it? Or what?
Actually, that's been amended out of the ordinance. The ordinance now
So-
only covers the 33.
Okay,
All right, so we can just.
all right, we're back to square one then. All right, so we're just going to leave it right here, right?
Or can we
We
go ahead
can-
and go to the second, or?
Well,
third
I
reading?
think we're on the third reading of this
Okay.
particular,
And it's
Went
been
through the
amended.
third reading.
yes.
Second
So it's
reading.
now been amended to rezone 33.38 acres to RSF 8 residential single-family 8 units per acre, as shown on the exhibits that Jeremy will prepare and that you've seen, so you know what land we're talking about.
And then the 59 acres, we'll worry about the 59 acres later.
That's out of the ordinance.
Okey-doke.
So we'll have to create a new ordinance.
Just want to be sure I've got my head straight on this.
New ordinance, new notification.
So I'll be getting the calls tomorrow. All right. Anyhow, all right, everybody good? All right. Sandra, would you please call the roll?
I need a motion and a second to go to the third reading.
Okay.
So moved.
Okay, we need a
Second.
motion.
Oh, we've got a third and final reading? Okay.
Well, I thought we were on a third and final reading, but okay, all righty then.
We were on the second reading, we need to go to the
Okay.
third.
Okay, there we go.
All right.
All right. Sandra, would you please call the roll?
Latour,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Gray,
Yes.
Marsh,
Yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Petty,
Yes.
Tenet.
Yes.
All right.
Let's see if I can do it.
All right, here you go.
An ordinance rezoning that property described in rezoning petition RZN 14-4883 for approximately 33.8 acres, located at Highway 112 north of Truckers Drive from RPZD 05-1796 Residential Plan Zoning District Park West to RSF 8 Residential Single Family 8 units per acre.
Okay. Everybody good? All right. Sandra, now, would you please call the roll?
Latour,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Gray,
Yes.
Marsh,
Yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Petty,
Yes.
Tenet.
Yes.
All right. All right, number 4. An ordinance rezoning that property describing rezoning petition RZN 14-4916 for approximately .32 acres located at 956 Ray Avenue from RMF 24 residential multifamily, 24 units per acre, to NS Neighborhood Services. That's left on the second reading. I will entertain a motion to go to the third and
So
final.
moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to go to the third and final reading. Sandra, would you please call the roll?
Latour,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Gray,
Yes.
Marsh,
Yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Petty,
Yes.
Tenet.
Yes.
An ordinance rezoning that property described in rezoning petition RZN 14-4916 for approximately a third of an acre, located at 956 Ray Avenue, from RMF 24 residential multifamily 24 units per acre to neighborhood services.
Okay, what, staff have anything more on this?
Nothing new on this, no, sir.
Okay. Council got any questions on it? Any public comment on this?
Was the applicant going to be here tonight?
Well, I'm just fixing to ask that. Is the applicant here? Okay. I'll bring it back to the council.
Move we go to the third reading.
Second?
A motion is second to go to the, well, I thought
We just did the third reading.
we just did the third reading.
Let me ask, Jeremy, you have talked with the
I
applicant.
understand.
She is in
It's a
favor
little
of this
confusing
rezoning.
tonight, isn't it? Okay, we're on the third and final reading. Anything else? Any final comments? All right, Sandra, would you please call the roll?
Latour,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Gray,
Yes.
Marsh,
Yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Petty,
Yes.
Tenet.
Yes.
All right, number 5. An ordinance to amend the federal code by enacting 71.016 insurance requirements for motorized bicycles, motor scooters, and mopeds. I understand that that's, yes, Alan.
I'd like to make a motion to table that until April 7th, until after the University Transportation Committee has met and reported back to the Town and Gown Committee.
Okay,
I'll second that.
we have a motion and a second to table until April the 7th. Any comments on that? Discussion? All right,
Who
Sandra,
was the second?
Justin,
Okay. Thank you.
would you please call the roll?
Latour,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Gray,
Yes.
Marsh,
Yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Petty,
Yes.
Tenet.
Yes.
All right, under new business, number 1. An ordinance rezoning that property described in rezoning petition RZN 14-4938 for approximately 2.5 acres located at the northwest corner of Cross and Main Streets from an expired RPZD Residential Plan Zoning District Markham Hill Cottages, RPZD 09-3237 to RSF 8 Residential Single Family, 8 units per acre. Kit.
Be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Fayetteville, Arkansas, Section 1, that the City Council of the City of Fayetteville, Arkansas hereby changes the zone classification of the following described property from an expired RPZD Residential Plan Zoning District Markham Hill Cottages 09-3237 to RSF 8 Residential Single Family, 8 units per acres, as shown on Exhibits A and B attached here to and made a part hereof. In Section 2, that the City Council of the City of Fayetteville, Arkansas hereby amends the official zoning map of the City of Fayetteville to reflect the zoning change provided in Section 1.
Chairman.
This is another expired plan zoning district that was originally approved in 2009. It was targeted by staff to bring forward to the council, but an applicant essentially beat us to that, to the punch there. So this proposal is to rezone that entire property that was originally called Markham Hill Cottage Courts. The project is located, or the site is located off of 2.5 acres in the Hilltop Overlay District, north of Main Street, which is, there's a map on your on the screen behind me, and also west of Cross Avenue on the south side of Markham Hill. As I mentioned, in 2009, the City Council approved a residential plan zoning district with 44 dwelling units. That's a density of 17 dwelling units per acre. The previous zoning on the site was RMF 24, which is residential multifamily, 24 units per acre. The applicant is requesting to rezone it back to that original zoning designation for a future development plan. And in staff's opinion, that rezoning was compatible. If you'll look on the screen again, all the surrounding sites to the east, south, and west are all currently zoned RMF 24. To the north is zoned RSF 4 as you start to go up onto Markham Hill itself. The City Plan 2030 Future Land Use Plan designates this site as a city neighborhood area, which does support a variety of densities in this area. And if you've traveled down Main or Cross or any of these streets, you'll see that the area has started to develop with primarily small lot, single family, and some multifamily development with a mixture of density in the area. The Planning Commission disagreed with staff's recommendation and the applicant's request. The RMF 24 zoning request was denied by the Planning Commission with a vote of 7 to 2. A second motion and vote was forwarded to you all to recommend the property in its entirety be rezoned to residential single family, 8 units per acre. That also was a vote of 7 to 2. At this time, the applicant is appealing to you all to continue the rezoning to RMF 24 at this time, and we're in favor of either one. RMF 24 we were certainly comfortable with making that recommendation. RSF 8 we would be comfortable with as well, given that this is a transitional nature of property. A question was asked at the agenda session, I believe, about narrow streets and some of the infrastructure improvements that would be required as property develops in the area. So we always look at stormwater, tree preservation, the sidewalk connections in the area to serve users of the property, and any specific street improvements that would be impacted by this particular development. So staff is recommending approval of RMF 24 or RSF 8. Planning Commission obviously voted to recommend RSF 8.
Is the applicant here?
Yes, Mayor, good evening. My name is Mike Bauman. I live at 414 North Walnut. My wife and 3 children have lived in Fayetteville for the past 5-6 years. I've built over 250 homes in the surrounding area. I represent the developer that has this parcel under contract. And we're here tonight to go ahead and explain that the parcel that's shown on the map there is surrounded by RMF 24 zoning, and ask for that to be moved forward.
Sure. So you're asking for 24?
Right. There's 2 things that influence the parcel that are relevant. One is the Hilltop Overlay District, which obviously is very difficult as far as buildable area to build in and within. And then this particular parcel has challenges from topography. It's extraordinarily hilly. And so because you have the confluence of 2 things, the HHOD, as well as the fact that there's quite a bit of topography on the parcel, it makes it extraordinarily challenging to develop. That's why the parcel has been there. Additionally, if you look at the zoning map, as Jeremy said, you'll see that everything in the surrounding area is RMF 24. And we're asking for the zoning, now that it's expired PZD, to go back to that.
Okay. What questions does the council have for Mike or Jeremy on this? Okay. Is there any other public comment on this? Come on up, Tom.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. My name is Tom Brown, and I live at 2031 West Main Street. I own that house. That is right where Sang hits Main. I'm the first house past Sang. You can just see an outline, a footprint of the building there on the south side. You may also notice, I don't exactly know what that white line is going down Main Street and going up the hill and over. But you may notice that that white line doesn't follow the platted road bed. When this paper plat West End edition was done, they platted roads in addition to platting lots. That white line is approximately the center line of the pavement, and the center line of that pavement takes up 20 feet of the corner lot and 15 feet of my lot, so that the pavement is actually on my lot. In this whole block that you see there between Sang and Cross and Main and Stone Street, those are all single-family owner-occupied homes, other than the empty lots where single-family units are being built on those lots as we speak. I'm hoping that we will keep it at RF8. I understand from the city attorney's comments at the planning meeting that there was a massive rezoning done without any particular planning or oversight back in the 70s, and that this RF 24 designation is a result of that previous rezoning that was just done for no apparent real reason. If you look at what's actually happening in this neighborhood, it's, okay, well, right across the street to the north on Main, we have two duplexes right underneath that two-family designation, but those are on 100-foot wide lots. They're double lots. So that the actual occupancy on the land is not greater than RF8, even though that's a duplex. And yes, it's true that Lewis Plaza is down here in the southeast corner, and there's a bunch of apartments down towards Ramey, and Mr. Lindsay has got these big apartments up on the hillside over here. It's not feasible, as far as I understand, to build to that kind of density, 24, and I'm hoping that you guys will at least take a drive-by and take a look at what's actually going out on that street and what the neighborhood's doing with itself already before we go to some massive increase in potential to 24 units per acre. That's all I got.
Okay. Any questions for Tom on this? All right. Thank you, Tom.
Appreciate you.
Any other public comment on this? Okay, we'll bring it back to the council. Yes, come on in.
Evening. My name is William Henson, and my brother and I are actually developers on this piece that we're discussing. And as Tom Brown has noted, we are personally responsible for all the development that is going in that area. So I do encourage the council to drive by that area in general. And I say because we are long-term, we have a long history from family in Fayetteville, and we really want to help this area in general. So we really are trying to get a higher density because of the topography that's already been explained. It is very steep and lots of dirt work. So I wanted to make sure that y'all understand that what we are building in that area is ours. And we want to continue doing that to help the city and that area grow along west of campus there. And I'd be happy to answer any questions if you gentlemen and ladies have any for us at this point in time.
Any questions? Yes, Matthew.
You've been building homes out there?
I'll give you my background in general. I've been a developer for a while. I've gone from Hong Kong, Los Angeles, and Fayetteville. Yes, we are developing across from Ramey Junior High, that multifamily building. That is RPH. That is our property.
Would you be willing to give us a tour of this area?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Bring it back to the council. Do you all want to hold it here until we can have a tour of the property?
Yes, Mayor, I would like to.
Okay. We're on, all right. Just hold it right here. All right, very good. All right, number 2. An order submitting residential plan zoning district entitled R, PZD 07-2452, links at Fayetteville located on the north side of Weddington Drive and east of Rupert Road, contain approximately 152.23 acres to repeal the phasing plan. Kit.
Be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Fayetteville, Arkansas, Section 1, that the change to bring RPZD 07-2452 under the current PZD ordinance in order to repeal the originally developed development phasing plan is hereby approved. Section 2, that the development phasing of RPZD shall be subject to the standard requirements of Chapter 166 of the Unified Development Code, and Section 3, that the Plan Zoning District Ordinance and official zoning map of the City of Fayetteville, Arkansas for RPZD 07-2452 links at Fayetteville, as passed and approved by the City Council on May 15, 2007, with ordinance number 5015, shall be modified with revisions as described in Sections 1 and 2 above.
In 2007, the City Council rezoned this property. It's called the Links at Fayetteville. It's in West Fayetteville, near the intersection of Rupel and Weddington. The master plan is approved for a little over 1,200 multifamily and single-family dwelling units, as well as non-residential commercial space. Phase 1 of the project was completed several years ago and contains around 600 multifamily dwelling units. Phase 2 is about to begin construction. Has been approved by the Planning Commission. There are row homes along Rupel Road and another phase of the multifamily within the site. This particular request is simply to change the phasing plan. With all of our new plan zoning districts, we remove the requirement for a zoning to have a phasing plan, thus an expiration date. As we've talked about 2 or 3 occasions tonight already, when these PZDs expire, their zoning and development rights go away. The new PZD ordinance allows for the zoning to remain. A development plan can still expire, but they have the entitlement rights with the zoning remaining intact. And so this request is simply to follow the new Plan Zoning District Ordinance in relationship to phasing. Planning Commission voted 8-0, and staff is certainly supportive of this request.
Okay. Do we have the applicant? Are they here to talk about anything? Okay. What questions do we have for Jeremy then on this?
So Jeremy, I have a question. Just to clarify, we're looking at the PZD. Everything stays in place except phasing, so you'll have the same building layout.
That's correct.
So we're not changing anything. And along Rupel Road there, that is single-family detached units on the north side there also as it goes around.
Correct.
I just wanted to, and then on the interiors where we have the multifamily, are these going to be, if I read this right, these would be possibly sold as individual pieces of properties? They would not be managed by the developer?
It could. It depends. The way that the project along Rupel Road that you referred to, the single-family detached or row or townhomes, it's being developed as lots, so they certainly could be sold individually and for owner occupancy or for rental.
And I had some questions. Someone asked me these questions, that's why I'm answering it. Okay. But we don't know if they intend to sell these lots.
That's correct.
Okay. We don't know. But this has been approved already. We're just looking at phasing.
Yes, that's correct.
Thanks.
Any other questions?
Mayor, I should note that since the City Council changed the Plan Zoning District Ordinance last year, and we've done away with the termination of them if they're not developed in time, you won't see these problems again as we go through these old PZDs that expired, because the current PZD ordinance does not expire. It's a zoning change, and so it remains the same until the city council rezones.
Okay. All right, any public comment on this? Okay, I'm going to bring it back to the council.
Move we suspend the rules and go to the second reading?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to go to the second reading. Sandra, would you please call the roll?
Latour.
Yes.
Long.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Marsh.
Yes.
Kenyon.
Yes.
Petty.
Yes.
Tenet.
Yes.
An ordinance amending a residential plan zoning district entitled RPZD 7-2452, Links at Fayetteville, located on the north side of Weddington Drive and east of Rupel Road, containing approximately 152 1/4 acres, to repeal the phasing plan.